Aquatic animals that live in the ecosystem play a vital role in keeping our environment in check. Our aquatic ecosystems are being disputed to a technique used by state and local environmental agencies to conduct research. This technique is called electrofishing. Over the last decades, electrofishing has been terrorizing our ecosystem, killing hundreds of species and leaving even more with permanent damage. Electrofishing can do a lot of harmful effects to not only fish, but other animals in the surrounding environment. Mortality, usually by asphyxiation, is a common result of excessive exposure to tantalizing intensities near electrodes, or poor handling of captured specimens. Other harmful effects, such as bleeding at the gills or venting an excessive physiological stress, are also of concern. Over the semester, my group and I have been researching electrofishing. We have researched both the positives and the negatives of the art. My group and I decided to reach out to an expert in the area of electrofishing and someone who uses it. Her name is Denise Otto, and she works for the Missouri Department of Conservation. Denise uses electrofishing often to conduct surveys throughout the surrounding St. Louis area. I'd like to take a moment to thank Denise for her time and cooperation in helping us to make this video even possible. In an interview, we asked Denise multiple different questions about electrofishing. One of the questions we asked her was, what are some dangers of electrofishing? Denise replied and said, anytime water and electricity are combined, there is a danger of electrical shock. Her electrofishing boat has several safety measures to minimize that risk, such as a foot switch that is controlled by the boat captain, and safety mats that the dippers stand on. Electrical current will only flow if the captain has the foot switch pressed and the dippers are on the safety mats. If the boat captain sees any unsafe condition, he or she can let up off the foot switch and it will cut electricity immediately. Likewise, the safety mats register the weight of the people on the front of the boat. So, in the event someone would lose their balance and go overboard, as soon as their body weight is no longer on the safety mat, all electricity stops immediately. Now this led my group to wonder, why is there so much protection for humans, but no protection for fish and other species who are affected by the electrofishing shock? Our next question to Denise was, who can use electrofishing legally? Denise responded and said, state and federal agencies conducting wildlife surveys can legally use electrofishing equipment on waters of the state and private impoundments. Individual sport fishermen, on the other hand, cannot use electrofishing methods. The Wildlife Code of Missouri, under 3 CSR 10 through 6.4105, states that no person may use any explosive, poison, chemical, electrical device, or equipment capable of transmitting underwater signals to kill, attempt to kill, or stupefy fish, and no material and equipment may be possessed for those purposes on waters of the state or adjacent banks. Our last question to Denise was, what is the penalty for illegally electrofishing in Missouri? She responded by saying 1 year in jail and up to a hefty $2,000 fine. She also stated that she was very confused on why electrofishing is not taken seriously, since it is a deadly technique to use on our ecosystem.
So what is electrofishing? To give you guys a better idea and an expert's point of view, we conducted an interview with Miss Morrison. Miss Morrison did her after-graduate thesis at Missouri State University. For her master's thesis, she studied the effects of electrofishing on the non-targeted species. The species that she was studying more specifically was the hellbenders. Hellbenders were greatly affected by electrofishing. Many times they would be paralyzed due to their spines breaking, especially at medium voltage levels. In her interview, she goes more in depth about the effects of electrofishing on hellbenders. Her research led to new laws to ban electrofishing from the public. So here's our interview with Miss Morrison. I'd like to thank Miss Morrison for her time and cooperation to make this interview possible.
Hey, Miss Morrison. I got a couple questions for you about electrofishing.
Okay.
I'm curious, what actually is electrofishing?
Sure. So electrofishing is a method where fisheries biologists literally shock the water with electricity, and it usually stuns the fish and they rise to the top, and it allows biologists to do health surveys and population estimates, usually without harming fish.
So have you personally done this yourself?
I have used electrofishing, yes, to catch dargers, which are really small, like river and stream fish in Missouri. It's a pretty useful technique because with one shock you could get 50 fish versus kick seining, where you kick for 30 minutes and you maybe get 10. So it's a lot more time efficient.
So how big of a fish and how small the fish can it affect?
So it affects all fish in the water. Usually larger fish are more affected because the electricity is affecting muscles, because it causes your muscles to contract. So if you ever gotten shocked, you kind of tense up. Same things happen to fish, and a larger fish has more muscles, so it affects them more.
And also I've heard you use this in your master's degree. How did you use it to get your master's?
So whenever you use electrofishing and you shock the water, you can't control which fish is going to be hit. It just kind of shocks everything in the area. So something that occurs on rivers in Missouri is hellbenders, which are endangered species. So I put them in tanks and electrocuted them and just kind of watched and saw what happened. And as you would expect, it was not good.
So what were those effects? What were those dangerous effects that happened?
So we shocked all different life stages. So with eggs, there were high mortalities with heavy shocking. And then with juveniles, we didn't see a big effect. But then with the older, larger individuals, we had one break its back and we had another pass away.
So it's clear that it affects not only just fish, but
Right.
surrounding animals in the environment.
Anything in the water that would be exposed. So also like macroinvertebrates, bugs in the water, are also getting shocked and possibly dying. And whenever you're a fisheries biologist, sometimes you're not considering what else you're potentially shocking because you're just looking at one thing. But it's important to think about what else is in the water.
Fair enough. So obviously electrofishing is a dangerous activity. It's not something to be taken lightly, and a lot of people can overthink what can happen to it and underestimate the abilities and the effects of electrofishing. Thank you, Ms. Morrison, for your time.
As you can see, electrofishing has drastic effects on the aquatic ecosystem. It destroys the lives of hundreds of species that balance the ecosystem out. There is also countless rules for it and safety measures for electrofishing. You must wear a protective suit and take numerous classes to even learn what you are doing. My group and I concluded that government agencies only ensure safety for humans and not safety for animals. Electrofishing has positives behind it, and it allows for accurate count and surveys to be taken by government agencies. The negatives, although, outweigh the positives in this case, and it's not even close. The argument between the two sides is easier for scientists or protecting life. Our group and countless other conservationists agree that electrofishing needs to be banned from all use. The alternative of electrofishing would be to go back to older ways with capturing, tagging, and releasing fish, such as a rod and reel. This takes longer, but it is a safer option for the fish and the ecosystem as a whole.
The catch and release method is much safer for all aquatic animals. It doesn't cause permanent damage like electrofishing does. Today, electrofishing and the catch, tag, release method are the only two techniques that accurately have the same results. We hope in the future there will be a less dangerous way to survey a body of water, but as of right now, the catch, tag, and release method is the safest option out there. As we move forward, we are advocating for electrofishing to be banned, at least in St. Louis County and even the state of Missouri. Missouri is home to many different lakes and rivers that spread into multiple different states. Each river and lakes are filled with lots of aquatic biodiversity. Banning all use of electrofishing will allow for these aquatic species to help balance out the ecosystem and preserve our great aquatic ecosystems for future generations.